Hi, everyone, and welcome to Lurking for Legends, not Legends, Legends. You can tell I'm out of practice.
The joy of being live, yeah.
A live video cast where we do live reads with amazingly talented authors of all genres. I'm Christie Stratos, historical suspense and historical fantasy author, and my awesome co-hosts are epic fantasy author Richard H. Stevens and science fiction author David M. Kelly. Lurking for Legends is an interactive broadcast, and we encourage viewers to chime in with any questions you may have for any of us or comment on what we're reading to you. So tonight, we're very excited to have author Karen Eisenbrey. Welcome, Karen. How are you?
Karen.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
Yeah. Last time we had you, I think we might have done more of an interview. Now we're going to do a live read. So we're really looking forward to being able to do that live read with you. So let's start with you just telling us a little bit about yourself for anyone who wasn't here last time to see you.
Okay. I am a science fiction and fantasy author living in Seattle, Washington. My first 5 books were all young adult. There's a fantasy trilogy, the Daughter of Magic trilogy, and a teen superhero rock band mashup duology, the Saint Rage series. But I've just released my first science fiction novel, Ego and Endurance. It's a hard sci-fi workplace rom-com on a spaceship that turns into a survival story when everything goes wrong and they have to rescue themselves. And it was inspired by the Shackleton expedition.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So that's a really cool mix of things too.
Yeah, it's got a little of everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, congratulations on that. And I guess we'll hear a little bit more about it because we're going to tell you all what we've been up to lately. So that is your latest release, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That we're reading
last
tonight.
month.
Perfect. And we get to read it to you guys. We get to read a scene to everyone here. So that's excellent. So when is the second one coming out then? The first one is currently available, right?
Yeah, this is a standalone.
Okay, this is a standalone.
As far as I know.
Yeah.
I have some old projects that are related to it, but it's not really a series.
Yeah, I've written 7 standalones in 2 series.
Yeah, there's famous last words when we say standalone, though, because all of a sudden those characters just start niggling at you. And
oh, yeah, I mean that's. I wrote a fantasy novel that I thought was going to be a standalone, and
you can't write standalone.
Now I think I've written 8 books in that setting, and 3 of them are published now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's excellent. Wow, exciting. So you liked writing the sci-fi? Do you think so? You'll want to do more?
It was fun. It required more research than I was used to, so I'm not sure how much more I'll do in that area, but I never say never.
That was with the science fiction one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I write epic fantasy. There's
mostly historical research, more historical research than
Christie would like that.
The science stuff was just like little facts. Okay, I got to pick this up. I got to pick that up. But I had to know the Shackleton expedition kind of inside and out to get the story right.
Right.
Yeah, that can get complicated sometimes, especially if you have kind of like plans that you want to come off a certain way and they just can't because the historical accuracy will be all off. I don't know if that happened to you, but it can happen.
That's awesome. So before we get started, let's just go around the table. And Christie, you're next. What's new and exciting with Christie? So we used to do these every week, and it was pretty easy to catch up. But it's been a month now since we've seen you. So what's new in the Christie stratosphere?
Well, I will tell you. I have been working on Prohibitive Magic, and that's the 3rd book in the Grimoire Society of Dark Acts series, which is Gaslight Fantasy, like it says down here. So I've been really loving writing this series, and I haven't started releasing on Kindle, Vella, or Patreon Prohibitive Magic yet because I wanted to get a bunch of episodes ready. So I have 7 episodes locked and loaded. They're ready to go. And I'm working on the 8th one now. So this month, I will be starting to release them on Kindle, Vella, and on Patreon. So, either place you want to go, I release on Patreon first. I release it a few days before I do on Kindle, Vella. So that will be starting. I don't have an official date, but it will be starting this month. I did have people vote on the cover, so I'm going to, show what the cover will be shortly as well. If you want to vote on stuff like that, you can just go to my Facebook group, which is Victorian Darklings. There's only one of them, so it's mine. So yeah, that's pretty much what's been going on with me with the writing. I think that's about. Oh, and I was updating the first book too, because I'm going to publish it in paperback and Kindle. So I was just updating it with some things that have come to light, some details that I can now insert, and some things I can make a little bit more clear, flesh out a little bit more for paperback and Kindle. So I've been working on both things at once.
So you had a couple of little contests going on. Where you name your. Oh, you picked the cover of the book. You wanted to know which character you wanted. And I imagine that's going to be a cover reveal, so you can't let us know yet. But you also did the name of the book that appears in it.
Yes. And oh my God, yes. I'm so glad you brought that up, Richard. So I let everyone vote in the group. And on a lot of different kinds of things. Sometimes a name, one of the big villains' names got picked by the group. And I asked, there's a particular grimoire I needed a name for, and I was having a hard time choosing. So I let the group pick. And it was Richard's suggestion that actually took off, not the 3 that I put up. He put in, Grimoire of Blood, and everyone, it was just like, it was an overwhelming amount of people who voted for it. And the rest was so split, So that was the one that really took everyone's face. So Grimoire of Blood is going to be in Prohibited Magic. I've already written it in.
That's awesome.
You're going to see it within the first 2 episodes, actually, nice. You mentioned. So, yeah, that was really, you stole it there. That was great.
We have to do a live read with that on it.
Definitely. We will. Yeah. That was awesome.
How about you, Dave? What's in the David Kelly universe?
Well, for me, I've been taking some time off because I've been doing some work on my car. But other than that, just after the last show we did, I released the 3rd of the Logan's World series. So that's now out, freshly available for everybody. So that's the end of that trilogy. So I'm now working towards a couple of other things. I've got the second Hyperia Jones book, which I'm around about 30% of the way into on the first draft at the moment. And I'm also working on a second science fiction, more serious science fiction thing. Anything's more serious than Hyperia Jones. So I'm working on a second serious science fiction thing, which will be in the same universe as the Logan World and Joe Allen book series. It's in the same kind of like universe, but it's going to be like about another 150 years into the future, when like lots more kind of unpleasant things are happening to humanity.
Has to be.
Are bananas involved? No.
That's what JD is.
Bananas.
JD loves his bananas.
So that's basically what I've been doing. I say it's been a bit of a mix, sort of like some writing, some planning, some thing. Oh, and I forgot. Yeah, I actually also have finished my Joe Allen prequel.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Which turned out to be a novella. I originally thought it was going to be a short story, but it's actually come out as a novella. So I'm letting that sort of curdle for a while and mature. And then I'll get to editing that fairly shortly. And I think I'm going to be putting that up on my website as a serial. Nice. a weekly serial.
Oh, cool.
Oh, I love it.
A while before I actually publish it as an actual book. So
that's neat.
That's great.
So that's been what I've been up to. What about yourself, Richard?
Yeah, no, I haven't been doing a lot. Like I say, my writing is getting very slow. So I'm probably about 82,000 words. And I think last time we checked in, I was at 70. So in a month, I've done 12,000 words, which is awful. But that's just the way it is. I've had a lot of other things going on, book events, and I've got a couple of weddings to get ready for. My wife had surgery, and just a whole bunch of things eating at my time. So, but it's coming. I'm very happy the way it's going. And sometimes I think not rushing it and taking the time actually allows it to percolate. And then all of a sudden you get this amazing idea and you sit down and you write it. You might only write 500 words, but if you had written it a month before, that idea would probably never be there because you wouldn't be thinking about that scene. So I think it's all for, it all works out. I always tell people that, don't stress about how many words you write a day. The story will write itself as it's ready, and that's certainly true for me. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing. It's still a long way away from completion. So, if anyone's waiting for book 4 of the High Cliff Guardians series, it won't be out until probably the end of the year. That's what I'm telling people now. So, we'll see. But anyway, now let's get on with what we're here for tonight, and that is to delve into the excerpts of Karen Eisenbrey. Am I saying your name right? Is it Eisenbrey?
Bray, yeah.
Bray Eisenbrey, Karen Eisenbrey, and Christie Stratos. We're going to start with Karen first. So I think we can just dive into it. We'll get Karen to set it up for us, and so she can give us a bit of preamble, let us know a little bit more about the book if you want, Karen. You just released this in May, so congratulations on that. You're welcome to share a bit more about that and let people know where they can get it, and then set us up with the preamble, and we will get into costume.
All right. So the title of the book is Ego and Endurance, and you can get it pretty much anywhere books are sold. It's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble online. Any independent bookstore will order it for you, and you can find out all the details at my website, KarenEisenbreyWriter.com. In this excerpt, Commander Ruby Ladd is leading the first crewed mission to the asteroid belt.
No, I've got it here.
Renowned filmmaker Hart Gunner is along to document the expedition. Commander Ladd resents his presence, while he is trying to persuade her to talk about the real story behind a previous disaster. 1 month into the mission, somewhere between Earth and Mars, the crew is gelling as a unit, with occasional conflicts.
Perfect. I am, of course, Ruby Ladd, because I lead the ship. So, it's got to be me. I love your hat and your hair. Did you make that hat?
I made the hair as well.
You made it.
I shaved my back.
It looks great. Oh my God, I love it. Fantastic. David makes a great woman. You make a great Betty, David.
Yellow and blue line. All right, I'm coming in here. So I am typecast as a man and a woman, so I'm trying to be like the old Marvel Comics character where he's part guy, part woman, and I'm not going to pull it off very well because.
Oh my God.
Anyway, yeah. So you go ahead, Karen, and you can. You're the narrator.
Half of you looks stunning, Richard.
Yellow is. I got to remember. Yellow is the guy. Blue is the girl.
And I don't know if you ever have to talk to yourself, but probably. So, I will read out of your mouth. I'll read the setup again. Commander Ruby Ladd is leading the first crewed mission to the asteroid belt. Renowned filmmaker Hart Gunner is along to document the expedition. Commander Ladd resents his presence while he is trying to persuade her to talk about the real story behind a previous disaster. 1 month into the mission, somewhere between Earth and Mars, the crew is gelling as a unit, with occasional conflicts.
What the hell is this?
Nielsen sniffed the tortilla-wrapped bundle and made a face.
Language?
Nguyen muttered. If Nielsen heard, he ignored her. Blackborough continued passing out lunch to the rest of the party.
I call them jambalaya wraps. I mixed a couple of different mess packs, Spanish rice with chicken and shrimp risotto. I thought I smelled shrimp.
Nielsen used his saltiest adjective for the sea creature.
Mr. Nielsen, I find your language is offensive.
Nguyen said.
Tough. I don't eat shrimp.
Blackburrow's eyes widened.
Oh, no. Are you allergic? It's hard spinning around my chair here. No, I just don't like the damn things. Like bugs, but in water.
Yan clenched her fists.
Please stop swearing. Just for one meal.
Sorry, this is how I talk. If you don't like it, you can.
Ruby intervened.
Mr. Nielsen, this is what we're having for lunch today. If you don't like it, you can go without or make your own, but no complaints. Next time, Ms. Blackborough will make sure you don't get shrimp, right?
Of course.
Blackburrow said.
Sorry.
I, for one, am enjoying the mix of flavors.
Gunner said.
It's not quite jambalaya, but it's close enough for me. Just needs some smoked sausage and a little more spice.
Ruby relaxed, relieved someone else had stood up for the cook's choice before she set the example. She appreciated the creativity and the break in the monotony. A month into their journey, fresh food was a distant memory, and the honeymoon of the first few days was long over. Ruby dreamed of rain, mountain vistas, and her father's face. Everyone must have been missing something from their life on Earth. She hoped this mission would be worth the temporary losses. Sometimes tempers grew short, but there were also signs of team spirit. In the first month of the expedition, the Endurance Party had found many opportunities for play in the midst of duties and training. She emphasized these moments in her first monthly digest to HQ, playing down the occasional friction between shipmates. Ruby beckoned Blackburrow over.
When you've finished eating, check in the freezer behind the tortillas. I think we're due for a treat.
After lunch, Blackburrow floated out of the galley with a case of ice cream sandwiches, something Ruby had tucked away as a surprise morale booster. Ruby devoured hers with brisk efficiency, but not everyone was so tidy. Globules of melted ice cream soon floated all over the room, provoking a game. Hart Gunner, with typical vanity, had refused ice cream on account of his mustache, but he filmed the aftermath with great amusement. The players demonstrated a variety of hunting styles. Eyestone crept up on the floating droplets, stalking them, then darted his tongue out chameleon-like to take his prey. Crane liked to push off the surfaces and dive onto the globules, while Wild merely waited for whatever drifted his way. Nielsen carefully herded globs together into a growing super glob. While this was going on, two crewmates continued a chess game begun before lunch. They were well matched and watched each other's moves intently. It wasn't as much a spectator sport as the absurdity taking place nearby, but Ruby kept her eye on both games. She bit her tongue as first Curly missed an opportunity to put Keith in check, and then Keith overlooked a chance to threaten Curly's queen. It was their game, not hers.
Do you play chess, boss?
Gunner asked.
You look like you're dying to offer advice.
I've been known to play,
she said.
I'd love to challenge you to a game sometime.
You don't want to go there,
Wild said. He sucked up a globule of ice cream that came too close.
She can plan 8 or 10 moves ahead. I've known her almost 15 years, and I've never won a match. Not to worry. A commander shouldn't compete against the people who work for her,
Ruby said.
Hmm.
A slow smile spread over Gunner's face, but something distracted him from whatever he was about to say.
That's quite the giganto blob you got going there, Nielsen.
Ruby was about to agree when she noticed he was lining it up like a billiard shot with the side of Keith's head. A puff of breath was all it would take.
Mr. Nielsen,
she called. He turned and the glob remained where it was.
When you've finished your dessert, would you take a look at the water recycling system? Seems a bit humid in here.
Yes, ma'am.
He leaned toward the melted ice cream and slurped it up. and left the mess room without further comment. Something dashed across the floor after Nielsen.
What the?
Ruby asked. Blackborough came up beside her.
That was Mrs. Chippy.
Mrs. Chippy?
One of the robots. She likes to prowl the ship, but she particularly likes Mr. Nielsen.
How do you know a robot is a she?
Ruby asked.
You don't. It goes better with the name, though.
That didn't make any sense, but Ruby let it go.
Is that the same one I've seen in the galley with you?
Yeah, she's very curious.
She doesn't move like the others.
The other robots walked with stiff care, like old dogs. This one managed to slink along, more like a cat.
Dr. Eystone, says her joints are loose, and he can't seem to tighten them. She might not be suitable for asteroid duty, but I think she wants to be the ship's mascot.
Most of the ice cream had been cleaned up by this time. Gunnar stopped filming and went out after Nielsen and Mrs. Chippy.
I hope there's more to the doc than this,
Ruby said.
It could give people an odd impression of the expedition.
The cook smiled.
I think people will like seeing the fun times.
She turned serious.
Can I ask you something?
Of course you may, anytime. What is it?
How do you fix my hair? About the space colonization. What's it thingy about my future?
In that case, we should include Professor Nguyen too.
Crane and Eystone continued to pounce on the last droplets of ice cream. Eystone spat something out and grabbed it out of the air.
Whose bandage is this?
Biddy Nguyen shook her head.
Maybe we should go somewhere less goofy.
My quarters,
Ruby said. They left the ice cream hunt and made their way to the commander's relatively spacious cabin. Blackborough hung for a moment in front of the viewport and gazed out. Ruby dimmed the lights to cut the reflection.
The stars look different out here.
There's no atmosphere to distort their light,
Ruby said.
It's more than that. It's like they're not them. They're us.
She frowned.
That sounded really stupid, didn't it?
It sounded like you've been taking philosophy with Mr. Keith.
Nguyen said.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Ruby joined them and looked out at the blazing specks.
I think I understand what you're saying. Step away from Earth and the rest of the universe seems less alien. We're part of the same thing.
Ruby waited, but Blackborough didn't say any more.
You wanted to know about Space Colonization and Exploration Initiative, SKY. We're currently in the E for exploration phase, finding resources, trying to make planets habitable, establishing research and industrial bases. The colonization phase won't start for at least a decade. Don't tell Wesley James, but I think even that's overly optimistic.
Who's Wesley James?
Imagine if he'd called in just now and seen that lunacy with the ice cream.
Nguyen said.
We'd have all been fired on the spot.
Ruby laughed.
If he tried that, I'd thank him for the nice ship and fusion reactor. I think Skipper might enjoy turning pirate. We could do the mission on our own, then sell the data to the highest bidder.
Nobody's answering my question.
Blackborough said.
Who is Wesley James?
Sorry. He's executive director of Sky, my boss.
Ruby said.
He's not a spacer. He comes from a business background. He loves projections and deadlines and delivery dates, but I'm not sure he understands how much space there is in space.
Blackborough grinned.
I'm not really interested in living on Mars anyway.
Ruby smiled.
Neither am I. But maybe you should reserve judgment until you've seen the place.
Sure.
Miss Nguyen said.
You're still young enough to have a chance at it.
Ruby sighed.
When I first joined the Space Corps, they warned us not to get too excited about the sea part of sky. Our job was to make things ready. But our children might be colonists. Our grandchildren might be born on other worlds. I like that idea, getting something ready for other generations.
She thought of Earth straining under the demands of multiple billions of inhabitants. In spite of her parents' opinion, she was doing her part, if it wasn't already too late.
Why Mars, though?
Blackborough asked.
The moon's right there.
This kid's smart.
Nguyen patted Blackborough on the back.
The moon is right there, which makes it a good spaceport. And moon dust is full of hydrogen and oxygen. But the gravity's too weak for permanent habitation, and even if it could hold an atmosphere, that would complicate launching spaceships. Better to leave it airless and dead.
Blackborough nodded.
I guess I can see that. Do they really think that they can make Mars like Earth?
That's a tall order, but maybe it could be habitable. It's technically in the Goldilocks zone.
Blackborough snorted a laugh.
The what?
You haven't heard of the Goldilocks zone?
Ruby asked.
Every solar system has one, an orbital range where conditions are theoretically just right to support life. In our solar system, Earth is the sweet spot, but Venus and Mars are both in it too. At the edges, but in it. Venus is atmospherically too out of whack to do anything with now, but Mars is still a possibility, if it's not too small to hold an atmosphere. If that doesn't work, domes or orbiting stations might.
Blackborough nodded.
I don't know if I want to live on a station either, but I think I want to join the Space Corps. What do I need to do?
Take it away, Professor.
Ruby gestured for Ms. Nguyen to take the question.
That depends. Do you want to continue as a cook?
Not forever.
Then you'll have to finish your education. Are you interested in the administrative side of things, or maybe a scientific role?
Robotics look fun, but I don't think I could hack the math. What I'd really like is to fly the ships.
See, Betty? That's why I wanted you here.
Ruby said. Nguyen chuckled.
There's math there too, but I think we can both relate. And you've done well in your training sessions.
She listed the academic requirements for pilot training, as well as the time and discipline required for the training itself and the job that followed.
It's a big commitment,
Ruby said.
You'd be away from home a lot. You think you could do all that?
Sure, but...
She bit her lip and glanced away for a moment.
Why did you join, boss?
Same as you. I wanted to fly spaceships. I wanted to get away.
From what?
Ruby chose her words carefully.
The life my parents wanted for me. Don't get me wrong, they were doing admirable work. It just wasn't my work. And they didn't understand my ambition. It was convenient that the thing I most wanted to do would take me as far away as possible from them.
Ouch.
Nguyen muttered.
I'm making it sound worse than it was.
Ruby gazed out the viewport while she gathered her thoughts.
They were reasonably supportive when they saw they couldn't influence my decision. Once I was in, I found that the life suited me. I liked my work, and I liked the routine. I didn't have to think about what to wear or when to eat. I knew what my responsibilities were and who my boss was. It seemed very clean.
Blackborough wrinkled her nose.
It sounds like a convent.
Nguyen laughed.
Well, she's not wrong.
Ruby had never thought about it that way, but the Corps did at times feel like a vocation.
Is it true what you said before?
Blackborough asked.
About no sex?
She blushed. Ruby was amused, but not displeased, that there were still young people who would blush about such things.
At your age, it's more important to have friends than lovers.
Blackborough raised her hand in the air.
Amen, sister.
Ruby chuckled.
Maybe at my age too, especially in this line of work. Anyway, it's not quite no sex. Planetside, we can do what we want as long as we're careful. Anyone with a functioning uterus takes a routine pregnancy test before any launch, and everybody gets a contraceptive injection. I don't know what all the science of it, but apparently it works.
Dr. Matt gave me one. She said it's good for 12 months. So doesn't that take care of it?
I wouldn't trust it. Abstinence is still the only 100% effective method. And out here, we can't afford anything less. So aboard ship, it's kind of monastic.
Blackborough nodded.
Isn't it awfully frustrating?
She blushed again.
It can be.
Ruby admitted.
The injection takes the edge off the libido, which helps. So does having plenty of work to do.
So it's for life? You're married to the core?
That was me
Nguyen said.
until I met my spouse.
I didn't know.
Ruby cried.
When did this happen? And how did you make it work?
3 years ago. They're a touring musician, so we're used to separations. This was my turn.
Well, good for you if you can stand it.
Ruby said.
Wait, not she?
When love comes along, I don't let a little thing like pronouns stand in my way.
Nguyen said. Ruby nodded.
I'll probably stick with the core. It suits me.
You don't want a family of your own?
Blackborough asked.
With whom? That's the trick.
Blackborough frowned.
You shouldn't have any trouble attracting someone.
That depends on what for. I have standards.
No surprise there.
Nguyen said.
What do you look for?
And someone to sleep with? Hygiene and stamina.
Blackborough turned bright red. She stared at Ruby for a moment, then looked away.
Have I shocked you?
Ruby asked.
It's just not what I expected from a space commander.
And how many of them do you know?
Blackborough shook her head and didn't answer, but she was smiling again.
It should go without saying that I don't sleep with anyone I work for or who works with me.
Ruby continued.
So that narrows the field, but not that much. For something long term, though, that's more difficult. First off, he can't find a strong woman threatening.
And their egos are also delicate.
Nguyen made a wide-eyed, pathetic face.
I'm drawn to talent, confidence, and intelligence, tempered by kindness and generosity, but I can't stand arrogance. Do you know how rare a combination that is?
Blackborough laughed and nodded.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being a little picky. Still, there must be somebody. What about Captain Anderson?
Ruby sighed.
He works for me, remember? He's confident but not arrogant and not available. He was already happily married before I met him. He has a couple of kids too.
Well, what about Mr. Wilde then? He's already devoted to you.
He's not available either.
Plus, you're not really his type.
Nguyen said.
True.
Blackborough thought hard, then beamed.
Hart Gunner!
Ruby jerked in surprise and stared at her.
You have got to be kidding.
Why? He's gorgeous, he's smart, he's talented, he works hard.
What did I just say about arrogance? He's a celebrity. He's used to people fawning over him. He'd never get that from me.
That's why it's so perfect.
She gave Ruby a sneaky little smile.
Besides, I think he likes you. He told Dr. Eystone, you're a striver.
I don't think he meant it as a compliment.
Nguyen struggled not to laugh.
Maybe it means he admires your work ethic.
Blackborough said.
I know he can't take his eyes off you.
No doubt admiring my work ethic.
Ruby said and smacked her own behind.
Anyway, it's only because he's trying to get me to talk about the Chickering expedition.
Well, why don't you?
Blackborough persisted.
I imagine it's a good story.
You're too young to know anything about it. Why are we even having this discussion? I thought I was supposed to advise you on your future.
And you did. I have a lot to think about.
Blackborough moved to the door and opened it.
Thank you for your advice. I think I'll go see the robots before I start supper.
Nguyen followed her out.
Thanks for including me. This has been an enlightening discussion.
Ruby shook her head. Blackborough would probably go far in the Space Corps if she applied herself. So much enthusiasm. She reminded Ruby of herself at that age. But she had no future as a matchmaker. The idea of any sort of personal involvement with Gunnar, or anyone, was laughable. That had been part of what drew Ruby to the Corps. Not only did she love her work, she didn't have to waste time trying to meet someone who did not exist. As she had said, it was very clean.
Awesome.
Great excerpt. That was a great
fun.
choice.
Thank you all. That was so great.
I apologize for my wardrobe malfunction there. I originally had two different wigs, and I wanted to have a short one on the one side and the long one on the other. The short one wouldn't fit with the long one, so I figured I'll just have the long one and my gray hair, but it would stay.
And in the book, nobody has long hair by this point in the story. So
All gone. Okay.
Thank you, Anita.
That was fun.
So we got a lot of comments coming
I was really quite concerned there, Richard, because I thought your hair was going to actually throttle you.
You know what? I got my little robot dog stuck in my hair at one point. I'm sitting there trying to get it out without making a scene.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
That sounds about right.
That's why I started a couple times there because I lose track of where I was. I don't know if you noticed this, Dave, when I was looking in the portal.
That's so great.
Nice.
That is so great.
There's a spaceship blasting off, and I think we know who might be in that ship. That's the cover from Dave's second book. That's in Joe Balance series, right?
Yeah, that's
Transformation
Transformation Protocol,
Yeah.
book 3.
That's awesome. So yeah, I was trying to find a portal. I'm thinking, what am I going to get for a portal? I was looking for a spare old toilet seat kicking around, but we don't have one. I figured that'd be a neat portal to look at. But we didn't have one, so I found that. I figured I'll put Dave's picture now. So that was great, Karen. And where can we find that book if we're looking for it?
I'm going to go and change, by the way.
Yeah, you go ahead, Dave.
I'll be back.
Anywhere books are sold. The usual online sources and any independent bookstore would order it for you.
Awesome.
Great.
So, can you also give us your website? Dave and Christie were the best at putting those on here. I'm pretty bad at getting them typed in here. And I have sole control of this channel right now, and I'm not very good at doing that. So I apologize for that. But if you can rhyme off your website, and then Christie, I'll let you set up your story, and I'm going to go off camera right now too and get ready.
My website is KarenEisenbreyWriter.com.
Great. And you can see the spelling. Oops, right there.
Right there.
KarenEisenbreyWriter.com. Perfect.
I am also going to go get my costume.
Ooh. Oh, this is exciting. This is very exciting. Okay. So we're going to be reading 2 scenes actually from Corrupted Magic. And as I think I didn't say this. Maybe I did say this before. It's Gaslamp Fantasy. So this is fantasy taking place in the Victorian era. It's the year is 1850. And these are 2 scenes that go together, but they're actually separate in the book. There's scenes in between them. So let me set you up with what's going on. So we have Knox, who left the Grimoire Society of Dark Acts house. So Grimoire Society of Dark Acts is like the overall series name. And that's the group that is like the main character group. Everyone's a part of that. So Knox left the Grimoire Society of Dark Acts house without telling anyone where he was headed. He doesn't currently have magic. And Anne is following him at a distance, even though he told her explicitly not to follow him. He's been worried because he doesn't currently have any of his magic inside him. He had it removed and channeled into his dagger after he accidentally committed an unthinkable act when he lost control of his magic, back when he was with his old non-magical gang, the Dead Rabbits. And the Dead Rabbits are a real-life Victorian Irish street gang, by the way. So I did a lot of research on actual gangs back in the day. So now the Dead Rabbits might be coming at Knox's request because the Ruin Rats, they're a magical gang. So we have the Dead Rabbits who are non-magical and the Ruin Rats who are magical. The Ruin Rats are a magical gang and they're working off of corrupted magic, which uses others' magic against them. So if you do any kind of like attack that can use your magic right back at you. Feeling vulnerable and too weak to protect himself and his society without his magic, Knox thinks he's figured out a way to use it without accidentally harming others. So we're actually going to start in Anne's perspective. Oh, that's perfect. I love it. That's great.
Falling off though here.
Oh, it looks great.
Whoop.
So Anne is actually, she's wearing a cloak. So this is perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. And Karen's going to play Anne. So we're in her perspective. We're going to start out there. Anne is a runestone maven. Nice. Richard bringing the dirt to the face.
That's why I had to slip out just for it on air. I had to go in the backyard and get some dirt.
I love it. Karen is a runestone maven. So she carries around runestones in her dress pocket. And that's where her magic, that's how her magic, it's like the artifact that she uses her magic through. You always have to have an artifact when you're using magic in my Gaslight Fantasy world. So we're going to have also Knox, who is David Kelly. He's just such a good Knox that, look at him. He looks great. Look at him. So we're going to have him playing Knox, and both Dave and Richard are going to play tough guys on the street and the magical alleys. And Richard also... That's true.
You do realize, I just thought of something that actually, that read with Karen's story, we're now going to get banned in Florida.
Yes.
That's too funny. Uh-oh. They'll stop showing it on Facebook in just one area. Just Florida. Yes, CJ Knox does look dapper. Yeah. And then Richard's also going to play a skin eater. So you guys are going to... A sin eater. Why did I say skin eater? A sin eater. Skin eater might be scarier. I don't know.
As long as you didn't say skinny dipper.
That would be a different kind of story for sure.
Yeah, we're not doing that costume.
So we are starting out from Anne's perspective. I'm going to be the narrator, and Karen is Anne. Anne gripped her Notha's runestone tightly in her right hand. She felt it pull her to the right, down another street that was night dark, even though it was daytime. Magic guarded these streets, using daytime and sunlight to reflect instead its inverse, nighttime and bright moonlight that enabled her to see well. The atmosphere was conducive to the kind of activities that went on in this less than savory area. Boston's city magic was strong, hiding areas like this from non-magic people. But it wasn't strong enough to keep Anne's runestone from leading her to Knox. The silly man thought he could lose her. Didn't he realize yet that they were of the same stock? She knew these back alleys by heart, probably better than him. His years on the streets of New York made him tougher, but growing up on the streets of Boston made her smarter. Perhaps it was best he didn't get that through his thick skull after all. Otherwise, he might get clever on her.
Where is he going? Nothing here is of use to him.
Notha's pulled her left, then a quick right down a very slim passageway one couldn't even call an alley. She turned sideways and pushed herself through slowly, leading with her right shoulder. Carefully, still holding her runestone in her right hand while firmly gripping her cloak in the same hand, she pulled her cloak tight against her stomach to keep it from tearing on the brick walls, threatening to snag it. She impatiently made her way through the tight space. How had Knox managed to get through this passage if even she was struggling? Perhaps Notha's was leading her down the fastest passage, not the one he'd actually taken. Damn runestone navigation. She came out the other side and found herself in another alley. This one she recognized by its false dead end. There was another slim but more manageable passageway right up against the dead end, not visible unless one was right next to it.
Who could he want to see here?
Anne had been sure Knox was headed to see some old gang member or someone similar, but the chances were low in this area. It was loaded with oracles, cheap creatorships, thieves' guilds, and poison parlors, all low end and all with bad intentions. Perhaps he was getting a new set of brass knuckles, made with materials specifically meant to conduct magic.
Hey, little canary.
A rough man's voice said. He grabbed her arm through her cloak just before she could make it to the next passageway.
What price for a tumble?
She yanked her arm away, quickly taking in the man's dirty face, his filthy, ragged suit.
No gang affiliation. Weapon bulge in the left pants pocket. Right eye's damaged from a fight. Scars all over his face.
Willing her magic forward to warn him off, the man sniffed hard, taking in the rose scent.
Rude lady, then. Good as a canary, I say.
Guess he's unafraid of taking more damage. Great.
She dropped Nothez back into her skirt pocket and removed a short, sharp dagger from the leather sheath sewn into the material against her thigh. She pushed her cloak aside to wave the weapon in front of him. Another man stumbled up behind the first one.
You find one for us?
He slurred, his eyes barely open.
Drunk.
Yeah, got a nice clean one, yeah. Wants to play.
The first man gestured at Anne with a smirk on his face. Anne took one step back. She wasn't looking for a fight. She was only looking for Knox. Perhaps instead of wasting time on a fight, she could send them to Uruz and let them burn. That would be doing a lot of women a favor. A door to Anne's left opened and a bright yellow light spilled from the shop. The first man winced and Anne lunged at him, shoving her dagger deep into his stomach and then turning it hard.
For all the women you've overpowered, you cheap jackal.
She jerked it upward as far as she could, and the man coughed at her, his arms flying to hers, gripping her tightly. Someone came out of the shop just as the man let out a cry of pain. She ripped out her dagger and drew his open suit jacket closed, buttoning it with a swift, deft movement. The drunken friends still behind him had no clue this man would bleed out and die soon. The person from the shop came closer in the already cramped alley space, staring at Anne. She put her arm around the dying man, one of his hands still on her arm, and tapped his chest with her hand.
Uh-oh, only one at a time.
She winked at the newcomer as she led the bleeding man away toward the slim passage she'd just come from. Stabbed man's mouth fell open, his eyes bulging as he stumbled along with her, grabbing her around the shoulders for balance. He took a rasping breath and coughed again. A low chuckle and footsteps sounded behind her, and she glanced over her shoulder to find the person walking toward the mouth of the alley. All she had to do now was get this man out of the way so she could move forward already. Throwing his arms off of her, she shoved his body down into the compact passageway from which she'd come. It was probably rarely taken. The body dropped between the walls, but stopped halfway down, too large for the slim space. Backing away, she stole a glance at the drunken friend, who frowned a little but didn't seem to have any clue what was happening. He stumbled to the side, raising his hand as if he wanted to say something. Anne pulled her cloak tightly around her and moved quickly to the false dead end, traversing it sideways with a lot less trouble than the last passageway. The bloody dagger now safely in her pocket, she removed Nothez, but felt her hand had blood on it, whiting the runestone with the man's essence. The stone tugged her hand back in the direction she'd come from.
Great. Now it thinks I want to find that disgusting beggar I just killed.
She paused in the passage, pulling out a white lace handkerchief and cleaning off the stone and her hand as best she could. After returning the bloodied handkerchief to her pocket, she closed her hand around the runestone again. Closing her eyes, she infused Nothez with all the intimate details she knew of Knox that almost no one else knew or could possibly understand, calling to memory the faintly sweet scent of his almond hair oil, vividly picturing the new thin scar across his throat. Nothez pulled her to the middle of the passage and stopped right there.
Something wrong? Not enough of Knox's essence?
In response, Nothez pulled her hand toward the brick wall in front of her. There had to be a room inside this building where Knox was.
To the front of the building, please. I can't get through a brick wall.
Anne resisted the urge to sigh heavily as the runestone led her out into the next alley and to a wooden half door at the dark, dingy back left corner near piles of filth. There was no sign above the door, but there was a huge X written in chalk. Anne's mind raced to analyze the information and understand it. Looking down the alley, she found no one about. More white chalk X's marked the whole way down the alley, a strong warning against whatever this place was. After putting Nothez in her pocket, she hovered her upside-down fist over the half door that ended at her waist, hesitating for a moment.
Perhaps if it's this bad, I really shouldn't interrupt.
In the next moment, Anne shook her head at herself. That was ridiculous. There was nothing that could possibly need to be hidden between Knox and her. Anne knocked strongly, her eyes darting about in case anyone came along. Only the worst off would end up here. That was what didn't make sense about Knox's coming here. When no one answered, Anne knocked harder and didn't stop knocking until the door finally opened. A bony hand stuck out through the half door, open as if waiting for something. When she did nothing, it closed and then opened again. But still, nothing was said.
Perhaps a coin?
She took one of the few coins she had from her pocket and put it on her palm. Just a cent, but she didn't know what this person wanted. The hand withdrew and the door remained open, so she squatted lower and peered in. A hollow-cheeked face stared back at her, so thin his eyes seemed to bulge and every bone was clearly visible. The man did not speak, but backed away from the door and beckoned her inside with the gesture of a skeletal hand. Anne lifted her dress to just above her shoes and walked in her squatted position rather than chance bending in half and having limited vision. Immediately, her hand went to her nose at the fetid stench of the stuffy place. There, in the corner of a totally stone room with no other doors or halls off of it, sat Knox on the stone floor, his dagger on a worn wooden block in front of him. The block was the cleanest thing in the place.
I told you not to come.
Knox's tone wasn't angry, more weary than anything.
Knox, what is all this?
Anne moved closer to him. The ceiling wasn't even tall enough to fit her. She walked with her head bent and her waist bent sideways a little too. Knox glanced at the man who'd let her in.
You shouldn't have come.
He looked down at his hands. She looked again at the wooden block, which had space next to his dagger. Space with crumbs on it. Her entire body went cold. Sharply, Anne looked up at Knox.
You didn't. You couldn't have.
A faint smile came over Knox's lips.
I gotta have my magic back before the dead rabbits get here. I gotta have my power back.
Anne reassessed his appearance. It wasn't like Knox to sit in a corner and not at least get up when she entered a room. He looked weak, almost as if he might not be able to get up. His jacket was open, but so was his shirt, unbuttoned and spread so most of his muscular chest was visible. She tried to repress the memory of the feel of those muscles under her hands, but it was impossible. She could never forget. She rounded on the stranger behind her and barked.
What did you do to him?
In a deep, rich voice that sounded nothing like this aged man of bones and skin looked, he said,
Only what he asked of me. The ritual is almost complete, but there is always a price.
Turning back to Knox, Anne couldn't stop herself from sounding harsh.
How could you put yourself in this position? I would have done anything at all to help you. You know that. Why would you ever allow this to be done to you?
Knox continued looking down.
Can't fix what I've done in the past. Nobody can. Except this man.
Anne fell against the wall next to her, eliciting some attempt from Knox to move, but the stranger motioned for him to stay still.
Knox, you could die. You don't even know if this man is using you for your magic's power. He could take your life and your magic. Sin eaters are the scum of magic. You won't know until it's over.
So be it.
His rough voice whispered. Now we're switching in the scene, a new scene, to Knox's perspective. Knox wasn't going to stop the Sin Eater process now. Not after he'd already started. It killed him that Anne had to be here, though.
She shouldn't have followed me. Oh, and a damn runestones. Get out of here.
Despite his feelings about it, his tone was soft. He couldn't help it with her.
I don't want you watching. It ain't gonna be pretty. Give you nightmares for years.
It was going to give him nightmares for years, too. His shallow breathing from the Sin Eater's bread-eating ritual that bound Knox, his magic, and the Sin Eater together had already made him feel weak. His most hated feeling.
Get it over with already.
No.
Anne said stubbornly, and he caught that slight tremor in her voice, the one she got when she couldn't keep her emotions out of it.
If you're going to be foolhardy enough to go through with this, I'm going to make sure nothing goes wrong.
She spun toward the Sin Eater, and her face hardened into that beautiful, threatening look she sometimes got when her new self slipped. She reached into her pocket and removed a runestone, but Nox could see in her eyes it was just a show for the Sin Eater.
I'll rip every limb from your body a centimeter an hour if you try anything on him. I know your kind, and I hope you know mine too.
Nox mustered a thin smile.
She really is something.
Please.
The Sin Eater's rich voice felt like it was reaching to depths even Nox couldn't totally grasp.
Let me finish before time runs out.
Gotta get this done.
It was going to be painful enough as it was. Now he'd have to watch Anne's pain on his behalf. Just more suffering he didn't want. The Sin Eater hustled to Nox's side and scooped up the ceremonial dagger from the wooden block where it sat. The guy squatted to Nox's left and held the dagger flat across both hands, looking like he was focusing hard on it. Black smoke seeped up from the dagger and poured out around it like a putrid cloud.
Kind of looks like the Hart brothers' artifacts.
Nox felt himself sneer at the color.
Carmichael was right. The uppity sap. My magic's rotten.
As rotten as he'd been by the time he'd begged for it to be removed. And Nox never begged anybody for anything. But that was different. When the black cloud hung around the dagger and stopped spewing from it, the Sin Eater took a strong hold of the weapon and dragged the sharp end across his own palm. He was stoic, and Nox respected that. But just as the dagger was reaching the end of his palm, the weapon jerked downward, and shock and pain sharpened the guy's eyes, making him gasp. The Sin Eater shot Nox a look.
Nothing's changed. My magic's still ugly as sin. It's got its own intentions.
The black smoke started to float down toward the Sin Eater's open wound, but slowed, looking like it was trying to resist. Nox lost patience with it.
It's acting as if it's got its own mind, but it's my magic, and it should be under my control. I own it.
Was it uncontrollable outside of any given source, like his body or the dagger?
Get in there like you're supposed to and get it done. Do you hear me?
He slammed his fist against the stone floor. That accomplished nothing, but it still felt good to hit something. The Sin Eater stared harder at the dark magic like he was willing it more intensely, and the smoke finally continued its path with a little less refusal. Well, one thing was certain. Nox's magic had his attitude, and it was a good thing it was doing what it was supposed to, because he was just about ready to see if he could knock some sense into it. The blackness absorbed into the Sin Eater's bleeding wound, but the blood was...
What, the blazes?
The guy's blood was thick and black, gelatinous. He hated to admit it, but Anne had probably been right. This had been a rash and dangerous idea, but he'd already started on this path and he was going to finish it. As the sins in Nox's magic found a new host in the Sin Eater, Nox stared openly as the guy's facial skin smoothed rapidly. He went from looking old and frail to in his 30s. The button-down shirt that had sagged on his skinny frame just seconds ago now started to fill out. No more an old codger, he was closer to Anne's and Nox's ages. It seemed like the sins fed his health, and without them, he'd probably die quickly. No wonder so few people did this kind of work. Once someone started it, they couldn't get out of it. Every last wisp of the sins from Nox's magic got sucked up into the Sin Eater's wound, now red and swollen around the cut. Nasty. He put the flat side of the dagger across the cut to cover it and closed his eyes, leaving it there for a full minute. Nox glanced at Anne, who was leaning against the wall near him, watching him. He caught the concern in her eyes before she could hide it. That look, that concerned look, was exactly what he didn't want for her. When would she get it into her head to keep her emotions in check when it came to him? He wasn't worth worrying over, because he'd never change. Not deep down. It was too dangerous to change.
Are you prepared?
The Sin Eater asked in his rich voice. It fitted him more now that he looked stronger.
This is the hardest part. It is your responsibility to pull through.
Anne shot Nox a glare. Had she figured out that he'd have to risk death just to get his magic back? That if he didn't fight hard enough for his life during the ritual, he'd die right on the spot? Nox slid off his jacket and tossed it to the side, then unbuttoned his waistcoat and finally undid one more button on his white shirt.
Just a bad day, Mary, is all this is. It'll be over soon.
And that's the end of that excerpt. Thank you so much for reading that. That was fantastic.
That was awesome, Christie.
All do a fantastic job.
Oh,
Very exciting.
I don't know if I got all my mud off.
It's amazing you could do that so fast.
Where can we find your books, Christie? Website and everything else?
Yeah, you can find my books at christiestratos.com. Spell it like this, christiestratos.com. You can buy my books directly from me. For the work we just read, which is currently on Kindle Vella and Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/Christie Stratos. Thank you, Anita. And you can get it on Kindle Vella too. So you can go to Amazon and look up Corrupted Magic, Christie Stratos, and it'll come up. It'll be the only one by that name. But otherwise, the rest of my books are in a number of places. They're, on, let's see, Amazon and Apple and everywhere else. Let's just say everywhere else. Kobo, everything else. I will be publishing what you just read and the first book in paperback and Kindle sometime this year. I just don't know exactly when. So thank you guys so much for reading it. I love hearing you guys read my work aloud. It's amazing. It's
always cool hearing someone else read your work. That's for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing.
We have a lot of people on today, and anyone who's here, please feel free to comment as we're reading. You're not disturbing anything. You can ask questions or of anything, any of the authors here, and they will gladly get to them when the reading's over. But feel free to chime in with any questions you have or any comments you might want to make. We have our usual suspects in the chat there, but there are a lot of people I noticed that were in here today that I don't recognize. And that was awesome that you guys joined us. We really appreciate you coming in. So
yeah, thanks for being here.
And Dave, I believe we'll be reading an excerpt from you next month.
Possibly.
Yes. That's the plan, and it should be July 11th. So we try to do the second Tuesday of every month now at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So I will put announcements out again, and so will Christie and Dave and whoever our guest is. We haven't lined a guest up yet. I'm working on one right now, so I can't announce that yet. But please, if you join us again next month, don't be afraid to comment. We'd love to hear your comments. You can say whatever you like. We certainly appreciate you coming in and tuning in. We have a lot of fun doing it.
Everybody will be dressing up as animals for my next one.
Oh, nice.
Perfect.
Oh, boy.
You're going to have to give me that program you have to make the rhinoceros head.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone noticed in the first read that this is actually, I guess we mentioned this, didn't we already? That's the second cover for David Joe Ballin series, Transformation Protocol. And I don't know. Do you guys have anything you want to say before we head out? Other than thank you, Karen, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You're most welcome. Yes.
Yeah, it's been good fun.
Yeah, this is great. Really great.
So has anybody got anything coming up imminently?
No, I have a wedding next weekend. I was supposed to go to the Sudbury Graphicon that Dave will be at in Sudbury next weekend. Yep. So if you're anywhere in Northern Ontario, please stop by and see Dave. And there's a couple other authors I know there. I'm very sad I'm missing it, but it's my eldest son's birthday, wedding. So Dave suggested that we have his wedding at the Graphicon.
There you go.
He wouldn't go for it, so unfortunately I'm going to have to miss it. But I have one coming up on July 1st. It's actually Canada Day. I've been invited as a guest of our community to come down, and so is Lauren. She's our daughter. She writes children's books, and we'll be selling books at Canada Day. And it seems like an odd place to sell books, but we did very well last year, so we're going back again this year. We're thankful to be invited by the city of Cambridge for supporting their local authors, and that's awesome.
That is awesome. Wow. Very cool. I'm going to be on a panel next week. Anita Stewart, if you're still here, can you put the date of it? Because just off the top of my head, I can't remember. It's probably in my calendar. But in July, Anita Stewart is actually going to be having a panel for historical fantasy and historical fiction that I'm going to be on.
Awesome.
So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure I really thought it was July 12th, but I could be wrong. So I'll be posting it on my Facebook author page and other places you guys can see. So I know that's going to be a lot of fun because it's mixing historical fiction and fantasy. We've got both sides. We've got people who only write fiction and people who write both fiction and fantasy. July 16th. Okay. It's July 16th. Thanks, Anita. Of course.
So mark that in your calendar, Dave. We have a date to heckle.
Yeah. cackle. Yes.
If anyone's watched the Muppet Show, Dave and I are Statler and Waldorf up in the balcony.
That's perfect.
So,
So I think that's what's going on with me in terms of that kind of stuff.
how about you, Karen? Do you have something imminent coming?
I'm going to be selling at a whole bunch of events throughout the summer,
Ooh.
including the Fremont Fair this weekend, and just a bunch of different summer fests in different neighborhoods around Seattle. I'm part of a group called the Author Event Network. We share booth costs and we sell our books directly to readers, which is very effective and a lot of fun.
So please, if you're out in that's the northwestern U.S., if anyone's out there, please say hi to Karen. I'm kind of envious of you, Karen, because my favorite author, the one who actually got me into reading fantasy and then eventually writing fantasy, is Terry Brooks. And he's, I don't know if he's from Seattle, but I know he based a lot of his stories from that area. I
don't know if he was originally from here, but he did work from here at least for some years, and I assume.
Yeah, a lot of his Shannara series.
We consider him a Seattle author, I think so.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
His prequels to the Shannara series actually take place around Seattle and go down the western seaboard. And so there's a lot of places that he fits in there. And it's really cool. I would love to meet Terry. I've never met him before. So I've got a few signed books of his, but I've had to order them through websites and stuff like that. But someday maybe.
That's cool.
And and sorry, Christie, if anyone, please, if you're watching this, and we would certainly appreciate if you shared it for us, that'd be amazing. And we would love to thank you for sharing it. We'll see that you've shared it, and we'll certainly chime in and say thank you. Just share it. It's a lot of fun where we get to bring in authors. You know, I'm an independent author, and it's very tough to get airtime with all these. There's so many amazing authors out there. Like, we're just such small little fish in this huge ocean. And so any kind of little share around just to get our name out there would certainly be appreciated. And we thank you in advance for doing so. And I guess with that, if you guys have nothing else.
I think I'm good.
Okay, so we'll see you July 11th at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Dave, Christie, and myself will be sharing it around. And I'll post it in a couple of groups that I did again today. Thank you, everyone, for chiming in. I hope you enjoyed our live reads. Sometimes our costumes don't quite pull it off. I just have costume malfunction all the way through Karen's, and I apologize for that, Karen. But that's the joy of doing something live. So until we see everybody again, thank you for tuning in and take care.
Good night, everyone.